Borough's summer window so far has been mostly about incomings, but the first outgoing has been heavily rumoured. So let's talk about the potential, maybe pending outgoing of Dan Barlaser. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about the latest rumour dropping in regards to, I think, arguably the most Marmite player in Boro's squad, and that is, of course, Dan Barlaser, who we signed from Rotherham in January 2023. A fee of around £1 million is to be believed. We signed him on a 3.5-year contract at the time, taking him, of course, until the end of the 25-26 season. He played all of Rotherham's 28 championship games up until that point and had 2 goals and 7 assists, and seemed like a perfect fit for Boro's transfer model at the time, which, as is now still the case, a player who is going to sign for relatively low money and develop into a top player who we can sell on for a larger fee in the future. However, Dan Barlaser has been at the club for a year and a half now, and I think it's safe to say hasn't exactly laid his mark, unlike other signings in his, at least in the Championship, between the time he signed for Boro in January 2023 and up to the end of that season. He only registered 1 assist in that time. He did play 11 games from the start and 7 from the bench, and only picked up 1 goal contribution in that time. You then fast forward to this campaign. He did play in 33 games for the club, starting 26 of them, coming off the bench in 7. He didn't register a goal and only got 2 assists, which is a relatively disappointing, or quite a disappointing, return given the form he had at his previous club, and even what he somewhat managed to do or struggled to do in his first half a season at Boro. He did not really capitalise on that, despite having more games and essentially a bigger opportunity to break into Boro's team, because of course he is competing with Hayden Hackney, Johnny Howson and Lewis O'Brien, who was injured. A large part would probably give Dan Barlaser as many appearances as he got, but it's safe to say he has not impressed, and he does top a few stats from Boro's last season in terms of accurate passes per 90. He is the highest from some distance with 72, or just over 72 per 90. A good 12 ahead of Dale Fry, who, as you can imagine, is a centre-back, gets the ball quite a bit. Same for Matt Clark, and he is also top for accurate long balls per 90, just ahead of Matt Clark and Dale Fry once again. So there's no denying Dan Barlaser plays his part in the Boro team in terms of picking up the ball, probably off both centre-backs, dropping deep and trying to then, get play going from deep in midfield, but he hasn't exactly been effective, and I think that is the issue. And I think, for me, just talking in general, I would be happy to let Dan Barlaser go. I feel like the trajectory we expect from signings of Boro, and we've seen it with Morgan Rogers already, you expect to see some form of improvement, and I think all that his time at Boro has done is probably reaffirm the point that he's a good player in the right system, and Boro and the way we set our midfield up isn't the right system for him. Our 2 midfielders need to be very agile, very quick, they need to be very reactive on the ball, 1-2 touch football, to play through the lines, and they need to play well under a degree of pressure from the opposition. And too often we've seen Dan Barlaser struggle under that pressure. Not only has he not been quick enough to release the ball at times, he's played some poor passes, he's gave the opportunities, or he's gave the opposition more opportunities than he has done the Boro strikers in some games, and I just don't think he's got the agility or the quickness to play in this Boro team. I think he needs to maybe be in a midfield 3 with 2 midfielders in front of him. He'll do more of that work where he can sit, he can be allowed more time, because equally we saw in other games against maybe lower league opposition, or when the opposition were dropped to 10 men or whatever, he'd have a much stronger influence on the game. But when it's 11v11 against a high quality opponent, he often would get caught out more times than not, and just didn't ever seem to fully adapt to Boro's way of playing. He just doesn't have the physicality or the agility to really play in this system. Now, don't get me wrong, when he has time, he can pick out some incredible passes. And maybe if he's played even further forward, he might have joy picking out some of these passes, threading the eye of a needle and playing in the forwards. But I think the only way to sum up Dan Barlaser is good player, very good strengths, but weaknesses too. And I think the weaknesses are possibly highlighted more in this current system at Boro as they are strengths. And we're not going to change our system to complement him. He's got to complement the system, and unfortunately we're not seeing any real progression on that front. So just in general, he is a very Marmite character, a Marmite footballer. I do definitely see a player in there, but I just think by this point we've just not seen enough of it. And maybe this is the point now with his contract. You sort of go, right, if there was a time to maybe cash in and accept that it's just not worked, which happens, it could be now, and this is what has dropped. So Turkish side Trabzonspor are interested in signing Dan Barlaser. This was rumoured by some random, maybe Turkish media journalist sort of profiles or companies, but has been picked up by more local journalists in and around Middlesbrough, which I think gives it a little bit more credibility. And this is what the Gazette have said, at least. So yeah, Trabzonspor are interested in signing Dan Barlaser from Middlesbrough and have made an inquiry about him. Talks are ongoing, and Boro are believed to be open to the transfer at the right price. Reports first emerged in Turkey from 61 Sat, which was the social media profile I was talking about. They were the first to mention the interest, with Trabzonspor Chiefs keen to sign him after finishing third last season and qualifying for the Europa League. Barlaser has struggled to cement a regular place in Michael Carrick's starting lineup since moving to the Riverside from Rotherham in January 2023, with Boro set to sign USA starlet Aidan Morris this summer. It pushes the 27-year-old further down the pecking order. As well as Morris's impending arrival, Boro have also signed Johnny Howson on for another 12-year contract, as we know, while they remain strong in their stance of keeping starman Hayden Hackney. On top of that, Law McCabe will be pushing for more game time next term after impressing in first-team training throughout last season before stepping up and making an impressive full debut on the final day against Watford, which unfortunately I was away for and didn't see. With that in mind, Boro are likely to listen to offers for Barlaser this summer, be that from Trabzonspor or elsewhere. Exactly what would be deemed acceptable remains to be seen, but we paid, as I say, around $1 million to get him from Rotherham 18 months ago. So yeah, a couple of interesting things in there, of course. As we have heard, we are expected to bring Aidan Morris in, who is another central midfielder, so that will add only more competition. If we keep Hayden Hackney and Howson, you'd think they would be the two that were likely to start. We don't know what might or may not happen around Lewis O'Brien either. But yeah, the writing I think is on the wall for Barlaser, and I feel like if we can get 3 or 4 million, we've at least quadrupled maybe the money we signed him for and made a profit in that sense, which is better than no profit at all. And of course his contract will only continue to tick down. So if there's interest now and Boro aren't seeing enough room for improvement or enough of a sort of positive trajectory coming from Barlaser, this might be the time to cut ties and just accept that it's just not worked, which is a shame because he came in and I think a lot of people were excited for him when he came in. I thought he was a signing that looked like it would work pretty well, but unfortunately, as we've seen, things just don't work out in football, and I just don't think they've worked out for Dan Barlaser. And I'll finish by saying, right player, maybe wrong system or wrong time. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on this rumour, what you'd do with Dan Barlaser. I've seen a couple of polls dotted around, and I think there's still quite a few Boro fans who are willing to give Barlaser a chance, but equally, I also think the majority, maybe 2/3 roughly, I think on average are more open to Barlaser moving on, and I'm certainly in that camp. We could use that money to strengthen elsewhere, because yeah, I think there are midfielders ahead of him, and maybe midfielders incoming that offer a little bit more. So let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on Dan Barlaser. I'll be very intrigued because he's a very Marmite character. He often is completely Marmite and divided from, some Boro fans. So let me know in the comments. Subscribe for much more Boro related content throughout the summer as more news and rumours hopefully start to drop. I'm also covering the Euros, where I'll be discussing England and how we get on in the tournament as we keep going. And of course, a like on this video goes a long way to supporting me in the channel. But until next time, guys, do take care, and I will see you all in the next one.